If you're just joining us, I'm John Hendricks, Robin Mitchell, and our guest this morning is the candidate for Lieutenant Governor on the Democratic side, Raph Graybill.
Hi, Raph.
How are you guys doing?
Very
morning.
good.
We're doing good as soon as I can learn to pronounce your name right.
He was afraid of putting an L in there and see what happens.
Well, I grew up in Great Falls, but I lived in England for a short period of time, and everyone there calls the name Ralph Rafe. So it was like the one place I lived where Rafe was not an issue. But listen, I think you kind of get it stuck in your brain once, and you don't forget it. So, I could be a Bob or a Joe, and I ended up with Rafe. So
Okay, well,
good to be here.
It's memorable. Thanks,
Good
Raph.
to have you. You guys have been out there really tearing it up on the campaign trail. Do you have a sense of how it's going, Rafe?
Well, it's my job to think this, but I genuinely think this. I think it's going really well. I've been on this ticket since February. We've hit all parts of the state. Ryan is actually on his way to Colstrip right now, where we're going to announce our tax cut plan. Everywhere we have gone, people who are really just sick of national politics and sick of the divisiveness and all the tricks to make us hate each other are ready for something different, and they're ready to have balance in their state government again. They're ready for fiscal responsibility again. They're ready for a government that protects and doesn't attack individual liberties. I have been humbled by the amount of Republican support, independent support. We're feeling it out here.
So let's talk property taxes. That's probably the biggest single thing here in the state right now that everybody's talking about. It affects so many of us. The governor's task force is making its recommendations today.
Oof, they are. Let me tell you. I mean, and I think folks in this broadcast probably know a lot of this, but remember, the last four governors, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, had a similar thing happen. Home values went up, and if you don't make a change, taxes also go up. But look, the government doesn't need any more money, and so these last 4 governors of both parties have said, let's just not make it complicated. Let's lower the tax rate. This governor, the guy we're running against, said, no. Let's keep the taxes high. Let's make everybody pay more. Either you're paying directly because you own, or you're paying more because you rent and you pay your landlord more. And then he sets up this task force that comes up with a 15-point plan that raises some people's taxes, lowers other people's taxes. When really, the Ryan Rafe plan is, we kind of stole it from the last 4 governors, but it's really simple. There was a tax increase, lower the tax rate. That's all you got to do. And then sort of the crazy part about this is the governor's own Department of Revenue, his nonpartisan experts, sent him a memo telling him to do this. He looked at it, this was 2 years ago, and it said, look, the taxes are going to go up if you don't lower the tax rate. We have a precedent for this. Let's lower the tax rate. Government doesn't need to grow. And he said, you know what? Let's keep taxes high. Let's take that money and put it into the surplus. And, we've just never followed a keep the change philosophy of taxes in Montana, regardless of your party.
So...
Okay. And now we get some of that money back with this rebate, but we have to opt in to get it, do we not?
You do, and it's a, I don't want to call it a scam, but it feels a little scammy. I mean, it's like me saying, let me make you a deal. You give me $100, and I'll give you back $65 if you apply and send me a piece of paperwork in the mail and find your geocode. When it would have been a lot easier for me just to not take the $100 from you. So to me, it's a bit of a gimmick. And, the last time they did this, last year, 68,000 households in Montana that were eligible did not get the rebate. I mean, that's like the size of Yellowstone County did not get the rebate. So clearly, look, these people are sophisticated. You can design a system to ensure that certain people don't get the rebate. That's how rebates work. And that's what they did. They set up a rebate system so they wouldn't have to pay out all the money. It would have been a lot easier just to not raise taxes. And now some people say, well, okay, hold on, don't we need that money? The funny thing in Montana right now is we got this huge budget surplus. It was $2.5 billion last legislative session. They didn't have to raise taxes. This wasn't funding some big, unfunded need. They just raised the taxes, and now they're giving you, dimes on the dollar back.
So what are you going to do about this if you get in office, Grave?
Really simple. Right now, the top residential property tax rate that we all pay is 1.35%. Gianforte's own Department of Revenue said if you lower that to 0.94%, change one number, that will prevent this tax increase from hitting everybody. And that's our plan. It's simple. We don't need a 15-point policy plan and 15 meetings to consider it. And, Gianforte flew in all these professors from out of state to study the problem that, frankly, he created. It's pretty simple. You lower that one rate. Now, behind that, you're never going to see from us this opt-in insanity. If we're going to lower your taxes, the government knows who you are. We can find you. We'll give you the money back. We just won't take it in the first place. And there's lots of sort of nipping around the edge of stuff like that could be better. But the key thing is just lower the rate. There is no need for this complicated 12-point plan.
Yeah, give me those numbers again. It's what, 1.35?
Yep, the current rate right now is 1.35. And the way it works is basically the number of mills gets multiplied by that number and, et cetera. But the top rate's 1.35. That's what we all pay.
Okay.
And we're saying lower that to 0.94. And again, that's the thing the last four governors did. And the other thing that's kind of happened because they didn't lower this rate is it means that we as homeowners ended up paying a bigger share of all taxes than corporations. So if you own a pipeline or you own a power monopoly or transmission lines or something like that, you actually effectively got a big tax break from Gianforte, and it really shifted the tax burden onto homeowners and away from the richest, biggest out-of-state corporations that work in our state. And all you got to do to fix that is just do this. It's called rebalancing, lower the top tax rate.
What does that do to the budget?
Well, what it does, the Gianforte tax increases amount to about $200 million a year. So on a $2.5 billion surplus, it eats away at some of that surplus, but there's still a lot of money left over, a lot of, again, change that we as taxpayers didn't agree the government could keep. So you can actually lower the tax rate and still do a lot of good things. You can focus on fixing our broken funding model for public schools. You can focus on investing in young families. Like my family, I've got kids who are 1 and 3 and 5, and we struggle to find daycare coverage where we live. There's a lot of stuff you can do and do tax relief because we're in this unique situation where there's a surplus. And again, it's sort of nuts. We're two Democrats here running against the Republican governor that raised everybody's taxes when he didn't have to.
So how are you going to get this thing through the legislature?
Well, because the last four governors did it, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, I think that there is I'm happy to sit down with any legislator, regardless of their political affiliation, and say, here's our pretty simple plan to lower taxes. Do you want to do this, or do you want to do this 12-point raise taxes thing that Gianforte is doing? I feel pretty confident we can get most legislators, regardless of party, on board with changing the one number that lowers everybody's taxes. I mean, there's precedent for that, and there's something, Occam's razor, right? You want the simplest explanation or the simplest solution. I may have misused that analogy. But simple's good, right?
So what happens at 1 o'clock this afternoon?
1 o'clock this afternoon, we're going to be joined by Governor Schweitzer, Brian Schweitzer, one of these prior governors that did the same thing. We're going to be in Colstrip, where Ryan is currently touring the Rosebud Mine, and we're going to make this announcement. And the funny thing is there's a lot of tax proposals out there floating around. Ours is the only one that actually cuts taxes. And so I think today the Gianforte Study the Problem I Created Commission is going to release their 12-point recommendations to Gianforte, and about the same time we're going to release our simple one-page lower the tax rate, dummy, plan. So that'll be happening at 1. It'll be Governor Schweitzer giving some background, and then it'll be Ryan, and it'll be me.
Okay, so this will be in Colstrip, so I would imagine you're either there or you're headed that direction now.
Yeah, well, the reason you got me is Ryan is in the middle of some dicey service area on his way out there right now. He's been doing a big central and eastern Montana swing this week. He was in Lewistown last night, had a good turnout of about, I think we counted 76 or 77 folks showed up, which, I'll say is pretty good turnout for a hot August night in central Montana. And we've seen that kind of momentum everywhere we go. It's disappointing to us. Gianforte refuses to debate. There's been 2 debates, and he's rejected both of them. But, with this momentum and having to defend weird 12-point tax plans that raise people's taxes. I kind of understand why.
Rafe, this is kind of an off-the-wall question, but there's the perception among many in Montana is that Democrats are dangerous. They're far-left lunatics. There are all kinds of these type of things going on out there. But the fact of the matter is, many people think that Democrats are not in sync with the rest of the state, and that in order to be safe, you have to vote Republican. How do you challenge something like that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is Montanans have always wanted to be independent. Montanans have always wanted to pick the person over the political party. And so Ryan and I are proudly Montana Democrats. That doesn't mean we agree with the national party or even the state party on most things. I mean, Ryan's background is he built Kimber Firearms. He sold 3 million guns. Not your typical background of a Democratic candidate in California or something like that. But we have certain beliefs about our community, beliefs about fiscal responsibility, beliefs about individual freedom from government that form our core beliefs. And I think in Montana for a long time, I mentioned Brian Schweitzer joining us today. Brian Schweitzer is a guy that overwhelmingly wins the governor's seat in 2004 in the same year that George Bush overwhelmingly gets our presidential vote. So really for us, it's a matter of getting out there, meeting people. We like to sort of joke, we are not the Democrats that have been caricatured in national media. We have no interest in playing that game. We're doing this not because we want to get on cable news. We're doing this because we love our state, and we think our state needs saving right now, regardless of the party in power. So our campaign is about looking for neighbors and friends and seeing the best in people and the best in our state. When I look across and I see what Gianforte is doing, it is all about national issues, national politics, national stereotypes, and that's just not the Montana that I grew up in.
Rafe, as always, a great conversation. Thank you for answering our questions so directly this morning. It's refreshing.
Happy to do it and happy to come back on anytime.
All right. Talk to you soon and drive safely to Colstrip.
You guys take care. Thanks much.